to make you believe a lie. One only needs to repeat it. Your brain simply cannot distinguish familiarity from truth. You pride yourself on independent thought, but how much of your mind is just an echo of what you've heard the most? We navigate our lives operating under a comforting conviction. We believe we are rational agents, carefully weighing evidence and arriving at logical conclusions. We are not. Most of the time, we are sleepwalking through a cognitive minefield, guided by a biological machine that prioritizes saving energy over finding the truth. The human nervous system consumes an immense amount of glucose, and effortful mental activity is expensive. Laziness is built deep into our physical nature. Because of this, the mind operates according to a general law of least effort. If there is a cognitive shortcut, your brain will take it. And the most dangerous shortcut of all is cognitive ease. When you encounter an idea, a word, or a claim multiple times, the associative machinery in your head shifts into a lower gear. Words that you have been exposed to before become structurally easier to perceive again. You process them with less friction. Your mind interprets this sudden sense of ease not as mere familiarity, but as an absolute indicator of truth, safety, and goodness. Very little repetition is needed for a completely new, absurd experience to suddenly feel entirely normal. You stop questioning. You simply accept. But here's the paradox. We firmly believe that our judgments are anchored in our intellect, protected by our conscious awareness. Yet, empirical evidence proves that our minds are highly susceptible to completely irrelevant information. We are constantly being anchored by our environment, entirely without our consent. Consider the administration of justice. We expect it to be blind, impartial, and meticulously calculated. Yet, the power of random anchors has been demonstrated in some truly unsettling ways. Researchers observed seasoned German judges, professionals with an average of more than 15 years of experience on the bench. They read a description of a woman caught shoplifting, but before sentencing her, they rolled a pair of dice. The dice were secretly loaded so that every roll resulted in either a 3 or a 9. As soon as the dice came to a stop, the judges were asked to specify the exact prison sentence they would give to the offender. The outcome was chilling. On average, the judges who had rolled a 9 sentenced the woman to 8 months in prison. Those who had rolled a 3 sentenced her to only 5 months. The anchoring effect was a staggering 50%. An arbitrary roll of the dice, a number entirely unrelated to the crime or the law, dictated the loss of human freedom. The judges were completely unaware of the influence. Their minds had seamlessly woven the random number into a coherent narrative to justify a supposedly rational decision. If a meaningless number can drastically alter the ruling of a legal expert, what is it doing to you? You evaluate a purchase. You negotiate a salary. You decide the value of your own labor. You believe you are making an independent choice. In reality, you are often just responding to the first piece of data your mind latched onto. You are tethered. You are pulled. And the manipulation does not stop at numbers. It extends to the very structure of your empathy and moral choices. Consider the subtle priming cues that surround you. In psychological studies, researchers found that if the content of a screensaver on an irrelevant computer simply displays images of money, it can drastically affect a person's willingness to help a stranger. They become more selfish, more physically distant, less inclined to offer assistance, all without their conscious awareness. If a floating image on a monitor can rewrite your moral behavior, how free are you? Your autonomy is fragile. We like to believe that our fears and priorities are proportional to actual danger. They are not. They are proportional to memory. How easily can you recall a disaster? If a memory is vivid, your brain automatically assumes the event is highly probable. This is not a logical deduction. It is a glitch in your cognitive software. We measure the absolute importance of an issue simply by the ease with which we can retrieve it from our memory. And what dictates this ease? The screens we stare at. Frequently mentioned topics effortlessly populate the mind, while silent, slow-moving crises simply slip away from our awareness. You think you are evaluating the state of the world. You are only evaluating the extent of media coverage. The world inside your head is not a precise replica of reality. It is a heavily edited construct. Your expectations about how often things happen are severely distorted. They are warped by the sheer prevalence and the emotional intensity of the messages you are exposed to daily. Look at the architecture of modern fear. In our current society, terrorists are the ultimate practitioners of psychological manipulation. They excel at inducing what is known as an availability cascade. Statistically, the number of casualties from terror attacks is incredibly small compared to almost any other cause of death. You are vastly more likely to die in a mundane traffic accident on your way to work. Yet, the weekly traffic death toll does not paralyze a nation or alter government policy. Gruesome images do. When these intense, violent images are endlessly repeated across networks, they hijack your associative machinery. They cause everyone to be constantly on edge. The risk feels imminent. It feels massive. The cascade begins. A localized emotional reaction becomes a global news story in itself, which prompts even more coverage, producing even greater collective fear. It is a self-sustaining loop of anxiety, deliberately engineered to bypass your rational thought. If this space brings you a moment of clarity, consider subscribing to Mental Cartography. You don't have to navigate these quiet struggles alone. Authoritarian institutions, marketers, and algorithms have always intuitively known this flaw in our design. They know that your logical brain, your system too, is lazy and easily exhausted. They know you will eventually gravitate to the least demanding course of action. So, they do not need to present you with a complex, logically sound argument to win your loyalty. They just need to present you with a simple, emotionally charged statement, over and over again. They weaponize cognitive ease against you. When faced with a highly complex question, your mind rarely admits defeat. It almost never pauses to say, "I do not have enough information." Instead, it performs a silent, invisible trick. It substitutes the difficult question with an easier one. You are asked to assess a highly complicated social policy, and instead, you answer based on whether you find the politician's face familiar and trustworthy. You are asked to predict the long-term viability of a financial stock, and you answer based on whether you like the company's recent advertisement. You do not even notice the substitution. You feel completely confident in your assessment. You feel rational, but your confidence is merely a feeling. It reflects the cognitive ease of processing a simple story, not the truth of it. You are walking through a house of mirrors, convinced you are looking through a window. We construct narratives to make the unpredictable seem inevitable. The illusion that you have understood the past feeds the incredibly dangerous illusion that you can predict and control the future. These constructed stories are comforting. They reduce the profound anxiety you would experience if you allowed yourself to fully acknowledge the sheer randomness of existence. But the world makes much less sense than you think. The coherence you feel comes almost entirely from the way your mind works, not from the world itself. This desperate need for a coherent story extends seamlessly into how we judge others. You look at a stranger, and instantly, without any conscious intention, you evaluate them. Evaluating people as attractive or not is a basic, automatic assessment, and it influences everything that follows. We suffer from a blinding halo effect. If we like one aspect of a person, we unconsciously assume all their other traits are equally positive. If they are physically appealing or simply look vaguely familiar, our lazy logical system naturally assumes they are also intelligent, capable, and trustworthy. Consider the arena of politics. We desperately want to believe that elections are decided by rational debates over complex policies. They rarely are. Researchers have identified that for politically uninformed voters, the automatic preferences of the primitive mind play a massive role. The effect of facial competence on voting, simply how leader-like a face appears, is staggering. We substitute a difficult question: will this candidate lead the country effectively? With a radically simple one: does this person look the part? We vote for a square jaw and a familiar smile, completely blind to the fact that we have just been anchored by a biological illusion. Familiarity breeds liking, and liking dictates our reality. So, are we doomed to be puppets of our own mental shortcuts? Are we just drifting through life, anchored by random numbers and manipulated by the sheer repetition of empty ideas? Not entirely. You cannot simply turn off your automatic system. It is biologically impossible to stop your associative machine from generating impressions. But you can learn to recognize the terrain. You can learn to identify the signs that you are stepping into a cognitive minefield. When you feel a sudden, unshakable surge of confidence about a complex issue, pause. Ask yourself, am I actually analyzing the data, or am I just experiencing the cognitive ease of a beautifully simple story? When you are making a critical decision, look for the hidden anchors. What was the first number mentioned? What was the emotional tone of the room? What is the invisible screensaver in the background of your mind? You must deliberately wake up the lazy observer inside you. Force it to do the heavy lifting. Question the origin of your deepest certainties. You have to realize that questioning what you believe and what you want is extremely difficult at the best of times, and almost impossible when you are emotionally depleted. Protect your mental energy. Understand that your mind is a machine meticulously designed to jump to conclusions. Jumping to conclusions is only efficient if the conclusions are likely to be correct and the costs of an occasional mistake are acceptable. When the stakes are high and the environment is unfamiliar, you simply cannot afford the luxury of cognitive ease. To make you believe a lie, they only need to repeat it. But the moment you recognize the echo, the illusion shatters. The familiar is no longer automatically disguised as the truth. You step out of the loop. You finally begin to truly think. Thank you for challenging your own mind with me today. If this video helped shatter an illusion or brought you a moment of clarity, please subscribe to support the channel. Your presence is my greatest motivation to keep creating. And before you leave, remember that the comment section below is an open forum for independent thinkers. If you've recently caught your own brain jumping to a false conclusion, or noticed an invisible anchor in your daily life, share it down there. Read the experiences of others, and let's navigate this cognitive minefield together.